Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. So in this video, we're going to discuss the fractal that we covered in a previous video. If you haven't checked it out, definitely watch that first. We'll be discussing that, a fractal on the not only HEX USDC pair, but also the HEX Bitcoin pair that could be playing out. We'll look at some moving averages, update you on the regression rainbow, and also have a cool announcement to get to later on. So let's go ahead and analyze these charts. All right. So in the previous video, we talked a little bit about this fractal that could be playing out, where back here, if you take a bars pattern, you can see we had a U-shaped formation followed by a downtrend and then a way bigger uptrend, okay? Now what happened? If we overlay it to where I think this could be playing out, right? We covered this in the previous fractals video. Well then, this played out damn near perfectly right here. This U-shape, this downtrend, same, pretty similar. And then we only really diverged from the fractal around here or so. Whereas back here, it was pretty quick, pretty intense run up. Once we blasted past all-time highs, it was off to the races. Over here, it seems to have taken a little bit longer. We had more consolidation and resistance around previous all-time highs than we did back here. Definitely, it's taken a bit longer, and we had this divergence around February 15th or so from this fractal, where we're still moving up, except slower, right? Slower and not as much, or whichever way you want to look at it, right? We could be offset in time, offset in appreciation. But what we didn't do, which, slap myself for not, in the previous fractal video, is we didn't create a custom chart for this. Like, what's wrong with me, right? So I went ahead and did this after the video, actually used it as a thumbnail for the video, even though it wasn't in it. So here you're getting it now. And this is plotting this move over here, and then ignoring all of this, and then rather just plotting this move to overlay them and see how similar are they actually from a data point of view, because we got a little messy on the chart, but when you look at it on a chart like this, I think some things become clear that weren't clear if they weren't clear before. Maybe you saw it, but I definitely didn't see this specific thing I'm about to mention until I saw this chart. So what am I talking about? Well, notice back here on Fractal 1, which again ranges from December 9th, 2019, all the way to around May 13th or so. This is weekly, so it's off, but March 13th or so is where this ends. Or May 13th, excuse me, 2020. And then this, again, we've covered which part we're covering. It's November 1st up until now, okay? And well, what happened, right? Well, we have this characteristic U-shape, which, again, very, very similar. But notice that the current fractal, if it's a fractal, peaked out over here, day 61, whereas on the first fractal, it was around day 53. So again, 8 days slower, nothing too crazy. And then notice that we consolidated here around all-time highs for only, 23 days or so, about 3 weeks before blasting off. Whereas here, instead of continuing this fractal here, which a lot of people were expecting, right? But the markets sometimes tend to do what you don't expect. Well, what actually happened is we had a retest of this sort of, what was this, like the 0.008 region, I believe, and formed the sort of ABC correction that we've covered plenty on the channel. And then what happened, right? We didn't actually decisively break our all-time highs up until that point, until about day 144 of this second fractal, whereas it happened decisively around day 121 or so in the 120s on the first fractal. So about 3 weeks slower. So remember, this peak here was about 1 week slower, decisively breaking all-time highs. It was about 3 weeks slower this time. And where are we now? We're at about a 2x, right? And again, notice how the previous all-time highs here correspond to this one level, because these fractals are beginning right before a downturn. So just a little interesting thing to note there, okay? Where were we? Day 184, almost a 2x. Let's just say this is a 2x, 1.39x, close enough. Well, what day were we at a 2x here on the first fractal? Not day 124, but day 125, right? And we're on day 184 of this fractal, so 60 days slower to get to the same point. You see what I'm getting at? Here was a delta. A delta just means a difference, right? So here was a delta of about a week for this peak, decisively breaking all-time highs. The delta was about 3 weeks, almost a month. And now over here, well, it's looking more so like the delta in time is, about 2 months. So this fractal is playing out slower, which makes sense because HEX has a higher market cap than it did back then. More people know about it, so they can counterplay each other. And looking back at these fractals can say, you know what, let's make the market do something a little different this time. Where, for example, a lot of people here were expecting a breakout. Well, if they were short-term traders, they might have capitulated over here, sold their bags for less than pennies, and then they'd be out of the market. And the point here is that the market it tends to do different things each fractal, right? Even if this were a fractal, which I'm inclined towards saying it is, then it's obviously going to play out much different than back here. And this takes us to kind of the projection, right? Like, where could we reach? Could we reach 12x on this fractal specifically? That would be another 6x from here. Sure, we could. It might take a bit longer, though. I think it would, right? Or we're already being slower. So could we see maybe a local peak, maybe lower than 12x, maybe around a 5 to 6 or 7x? Yeah, but that still leaves us room to grow, is what I'm getting at. Is that it's different but similar, and historically speaking, we still have room to go. Okay, so that's kind of the update I wanted to give you on the fractal on the HEX USDC pair, but also I wanted to talk about this formation here on the HEX BTC pair, which we discussed this chart a little bit in prior videos, as well as a live stream with Look Into Crypto. And it's pretty much this idea here that we had this bull flag. You could call this a bull flag. Let's actually take a bars pattern so you can see what I'm talking about. This formation right there, right? This formation before this breakout. Let's actually take it to the top of the breakout, okay? And look at what happened over here. If you overlay this, you see that we have a similar formation playing out where you have a bull flag coming from the high teen satoshis, right? So 16, 17, 18, 19, 20 up into the almost 40 satoshis and then consolidating before taking off, which is very similar to what happened over here, where we actually started around the 20 satoshi region, formed this sort of bull flag around the 30 satoshi region, similar to over here, and then blast off, right? So if you overlay the fractal, then it could take us to prior all-time highs on the HEX BTC pair. And what would this mean if Bitcoin just stays constant, which probably won't, but given the fact that it's been at like 57K for how long now? It's been consolidating for a minute now, so we can consider it stable for now. So let's say $57,000, $58,000 Bitcoin. Let's say 60,000 to make it easy math, okay? 60,000 Bitcoin and approximately 100 sats would be a 6 penny hex. So remember that our technical target for our bull flag was 3 pennies, but we could expect some margin, right? We could go up to 6 pennies or even higher because we've ignored technical targets in the past and shot right past them. So 6 pennies, right? That would take us here specifically. It's about a 2x away. So on this chart, it would take us to around the 4x region. So just a 2x away over here. And that would make sense, right? Because it would be a slower, less intense fractal, which just makes sense. And maybe the next fractal we see play out, maybe it's shallower and maybe does something different, maybe even breaks out sooner, fakes everyone out. Like you never know how these fractals are going to play out. They tend to play out similarly, but with slight nuances, variations from the previous one. So that would put us at a 6 penny hex if we were to reach around here or so on this chart. On this chart, it would correspond to an even higher value, prior all-time highs on this chart. And then if Bitcoin moves up, it also changes things. If it moves down, it also changes things. So this whole HEX BTC prediction of 6 pennies, I guess, this projection relies on a constant Bitcoin, which we might not get. Okay. Now, one more thing, saving it closer to the end because it's less significant, I guess, and it's this 10-day moving average, because last time we covered it, it was during this uptrend here, this up channel from March 11th to about April 10th or so. So let's just redraw this so you can remember, and let's check out the uptrend that we were looking at for the longest time. And it's something like this, right? Super rough. Let me actually draw it better. Something like this. This looks so rough. Hold on. Okay, so oh, this looks terrible. Hold on. I'm sorry, guys. Okay, so here's our uptrend that we were in for a minute, for about a month. And this kind of corresponded to our 10-day moving average as well. And we talked about this, where we would essentially come up to the top of this channel, come back down to the bottom of the channel, which generally corresponded to our 10-day moving average. And then we would rinse and repeat, top of the channel, bottom of the channel, 10-day MA support, top of the channel, bottom of the channel, 10-day MA support. You get the idea. And once we actually came to the bottom of the channel and broke the 10-day MA, and then you saw the 10-day MA start curving and concavity shift alert, then we kind of had this downtrend for, about the better part of a month, just like 3 weeks. The reason I'm bringing this up is because look where we are now. We wicked down to our 10-day moving average. And again, this is a very, very short-term moving average, very short-term, 10-day, right? We generally look at 20-week, which is like 140 days, or the 200-day, 300-day for the heat maps, for example, just general, accumulation zones. We're looking at the 10-day, very short-term. Be careful with using this because this changes very, very quickly. It's a very chaotic moving average. And again, we wicked down to the 10-day moving average. You see what I'm getting at? How many times did we hold it over here? Well, we came to this top of the channel. Well, after breaking it, right, we had our initial break. Let's just circle it over here. We tested it once. I'm calling this once because it kind of rode along it for a while. Once, wicked down to it a couple times, couple days. So let's count this. Twice, we'll count this as sort of the third time that it came down to the moving average and bottom of the channel. Could we count this a fourth time? I mean, sure, why not? And then this is where we actually broke it. So if we get rid of our parallel channel, just to make this chart a bit cleaner, you can see that the initial break was over here. And we already had our first test of it. You could call it this. It didn't wick down exactly to it, right? The wick was down at 207, and this moving average was about 205, but more or less, right, it wicked down to it. And notice how this angle of attack for this rally here that we've been in for the past week, a little over a week, is way, way, way steeper than the angle of attack of this one, which converges with the impulse wave idea that this could be the 3 wave in a sort of 5 wave that we might be seeing. So we might be seeing an Elliot wave, an Elliot impulse wave, which, generally speaking, the 3 wave is not the shortest, right? The 3 wave oftentimes is the longest, and so it would make sense, being the longest and most intense wave, that it would have a sharper angle of attack than, say a 1 wave. So what I'm getting at here, if we zoom out, and I'll just plot it real quick so you know exactly what I'm talking about. You grab your Elliot impulse wave, and so could we see something like this? Maybe, where you have your A wave, then your B wave is much steeper, right? And then your 5 wave might be much less steep and just take you, a little higher than your previous high, but nothing crazy. Usually 5 waves tend to be like that, where they're just like one final oomph. And this might be characterized by some sort of divergence on the RSI, for example. So that's pretty common, right? So just back to this, right? Let's say we were to test it again. What would that look like? Well, the purple curve, this 10-day MA, is moving up rather quickly. You see it's 220 right now. It was 2.05 cents the day before. The day before that was 1.95 cents, 1.81 cents. So it's moving up by a whole tenth of a penny, if not a little more on some days. So for example, tomorrow, this might be at 2.3, 2.35. The next day it might be at 2.4 or 2.5. So this moving up very quickly, and that's where it's at now, and it could potentially hold support as it did over here. So let's just project this out, okay? So let's actually make this let's make this purple. Okay? Just to see what it would look like if this curve were to go up at the rate it's currently going up at. So let's say it just keeps going up at this rate. right? Let's say until May 27th or so. Obviously, it won't just keep going up like this. I have no clue. But the reason I chose May 27th was because this rally lasted about a month. And so May 27th would essentially be, this rally lasted around a month. And it could be quicker, actually, because 3 waves might be sharper and quicker. So let's actually redraw this. Or let's just leave it for now, okay? Quick projection, and we can end it sooner if you'd like. However, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2. How many days in between each test here? 14 to the 22nd. 21st, about a week between here and here. So almost a week between every test. This test came a little sooner, 5 days later, which might be indicative of the trend might be shifting, but about a week or so. So let's say we tested it again on the 13th, right? Around here. Let's actually change this to be yellow so we can distinguish between the actual projection of our moving average and projection of retests. So let's say we tested it on, what did I say, May 13th, right? And then tested it again. Again, this is just pure speculation. So I wouldn't be betting money on it just going straight up, which a lot of you guys think it might. But it would essentially look something like this, right? If price were to turn this white, if price were to do something like this, right? Tests it, comes back up, bubble to the 4-penny region, and then it just keeps forming bubbles during this 5 wave. So could we see something like this? Maybe. It's way too early to tell. The only reason I'm even bringing this up is because it was significant for about a month here if you wanted to, quote unquote, buy the dip, this whole rally up. Okay, so could something like this happen? Potentially. Super speculative. I'm not saying this is going to happen. I'm just going to hedge my words here, okay, more often than not. But yeah, let's just take a look at DEX.vision and update you guys on the previous all-time high, which I think was less than a day ago. We wicked up to, let's take a look at this, horizontal ray, magnet tool, boom, 349. Y'all are insane. We wicked up to 3.5 pennies. Definitely a new all-time high on the HEX price. Keep in mind, this is DEX.vision, the USDC pair, which is the most liquid pair. $4 million on the ask, $4 million on the bid side, in HEX and USDC form respectively. So 3.5 pennies is pretty wild, right? Where does that put us at now on Nomics? Well, we're at 13th place on Nomics, almost in the top 10. It would take only flipping Litecoin, which is really, really close actually, with something as small as like, what is it, a 30% move? We could flip Litecoin, 40% move for sure. So a 4.2 penny HEX would put us in the top 10. So we're approaching, y'all, okay? We covered our Fractal on the HEX USDC pair. We covered our Fractal on the HEX BTC pair. We went in depth into the Fractal here with some quantitative charts. And one final thing I wanted to bring up was actually this over here. We have a new website, you guys. We have a new website. It's called lookintohex.com. And what is this website? Well, you can keep up to date on every single chart that I've made. Well, not every single chart, but the ones I deemed significant, and I might be adding more in the future. So which charts do we have up here now? We have the regression rainbow. We have our moving average heat maps. I'll explain something about those in a second. We have our HEX versus Bitcoin and our HEX versus Ethereum. Both of these, the versus charts, are ROI from launch, okay? And about these heat maps. So these heat maps are the only ones I made in Python, which not sure how to embed those interactively here on the site. However, the remaining three, these three, the regression rainbow, HEX versus BTC, HEX versus Ether, these three are made in my Google Sheets document, which I'm allowed to embed here interactively. So these, let's take a look at the regression rainbow, for example. You can click on it. I give an overview, how to use it, and when you scroll down, you can pretty much just see where these levels are on any given day. And keep in mind, I do have to update my Google Sheets manually every day. So as long as I keep doing that, then yes, I am a centralized counterparty that will determine, what you're seeing on this site, but it's pretty easy. It's simply copying and pasting from Nomics historical data every day after the daily close, which it's super easy, right? I'm on my computer anyways. So we have it here in linear scale. We have it here in log scale, which is my personal favorite. And then, I don't know if I showed you guys this, but we have our HEX price extension from the exponential fit made a little more aesthetic than it was before, where it actually matches with these. So all we did obviously was take this chart and flatten the slope, right, of our regression curves, and it looks something like this. So you can get a better understanding of when I talk about fractals and accumulation zones. Like, it's a lot clearer here now that accumulation is going on between the red and the orange, or it was for like the past 200 days or so, which I've talked about a lot. And so it just gives you another perspective through which you can view things, right? No need to subscribe to anything, right? This is just optional. In the future, it might come in handy, but no need to subscribe, obviously. We also have here this videos tab. So we have our charts tab, right, which is essentially our home page. And you can click on the images as well as the text. They're links to these charts. You can tap on videos, which just gives you some recent YouTube videos. So it's just a direct link to my YouTube, another place to watch them. And I'll update these according to which videos I think are the most relevant. This will sort of be like a highlight reel for any given week or month, where I put up what I think to be my best videos, most significant. For example, here we have our live stream, which is almost 2 hours long with looking at crypto. So again, lengthy, very full of good information, like Pulse, for example, we talked about. And then our all-time high live stream. So again, these are going to be longer, more significant videos if you want to check that out. As well as, I said, why not have 3 options here? What should be the third option? The only one that really made sense was a forum type page, so we included that. And I know you guys love to talk in the Telegram groups, which I'm a part of, right? I'm in the Pulse Chain chat, in the hex.com chat, a bunch of them, right? And it's fun. It's great. This is just a different place where if you wanted to talk about maybe things more related to the videos, on the channel, then this is a good spot to discuss. I started our first 2 discussions here, or one's a discussion, one's a question. And again, you can comment, you can follow posts, you can like, you can do all that cool stuff. You can upload media to make it fun. And for example, here, Pulse Chain Thoughts is just a thread I want to start on there's so much speculation going on around Pulse Chain. So again, I know the Telegram chat is open and you guys like talking there, but this is just another spot if you want it. I don't expect this to pop off really, but hey, it's another spot. So that is pretty much the website. If you click on Look into HEX, the title, it just takes you back to the homepage. And big shout out to Look into Crypto, because he was actually the one who gifted me this domain, lookintohex.com. Super clean. He snagged it back in the day, I believe, and was kind enough to say, you know what you're doing, talking to me, right? What you're doing fits a lot with the name. And, we both think it would be a very useful tool for the community to be able to use these charts in real time. Like, I know you love the channel, but I can't be updating you every single moment as the market is changing. It's just literally impossible. So even though I do my best updating you on the regression rainbow at the end of every video, for example, I think this would be much better. This login feature, again, this stuff is optional. If you want to make an account and stuff, you don't need to use the charts in the site. Obviously, I'm not logged in, but it's still functional, right? So if you have any comments, suggestions, ideas for the site, feel free to comment them down below. Feel free to chat in the forum about it. Hey, there's an idea for what to talk about in the forum, right? So yeah, guys, with that said, I really do appreciate you watching this and just subscribing to the channel in general. We're almost at 1,500 subscribers. So let's get to that by when? When should we have that by? Sunday? I hope to have, let's get to 1,500 subscribers by Sunday. You guys are awesome. Leave a like on the video if you enjoy this kind of content. Share with anyone you think that this might be useful for. Share with your whale friends, right? Share with your whale friends. So yeah, guys, that's pretty much it. Go ahead and check out the site. It's lookintohex.com. And yeah, let me know what you think. I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.